This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hello, and thank you for listening to The History of World War II podcast, episode 527, Winning by Other Means. Last time, the German 17th Army, seeing the potential threat of the building Soviet beachhead below the port city of Novorossiysk, decided to put all their eggs in one basket to push the enemy back into the Black Sea in Operation Neptune, which got underway on April 17th. Plans were made, men moved into position, the weather was less than helpful, but in the end, the Germans simply did not have the numbers to get the job done. Nor did they rule the skies over Seamus Bay any longer. Another try was planned for April 22nd, but once General Ruoff counted his men again, he realized he still did not have enough. Operation Neptune was called off. For the first time, the Germans were staring into the void. Putting German confidence, nay, arrogance aside, a neutral observer would have told all involved Neptune could not work. Or rather, practically every break would have to go the Axis way in order for this to pay off, which of course did not happen. Yes, the Soviets had suffered. They had been suffering since June 22, 1941, but here they stood their ground, took their losses, and dished out some of their own. Enough so that the Germans could no longer plan an attack or make good their losses. For one, their losses were too many, as the Russian troops and doctrine was getting wise to the Germans, and two, as we have seen, they lacked enough reserves. This demanded a defensive position, provided the arrogance spoken of earlier could be overcome. And as the Axis were about to find out, desperation always trumps arrogance. Clearly, the Soviets had the initiative, and remembering the Axis perimeter around the western end of the Taman peninsula, of which the port city Novorossiysk was just near the southern end, the Russians examined the perimeter to find the best way in. To the north, there were too many lakes and marshes. It was the same in the south, close to the coast, which left the perimeter's center. But where exactly? Just below the midpoint of the Axis perimeter is a body of water, the Vanarvinska Reservoir, located about 23 miles northeast of the great port city. And though water was causing the problems for the Soviet troops in trying to attack from landward, i.e. from the east, with the resulting marshland to the north and south, here, on both the northern and southern sides of the reservoir, the land was relatively dry and open. Perfect for large-scale operations. The Germans, of course, had already figured this out and thus made their defenses here strong. But now that the Soviets knew of it, it would be here that their attacks were made, strong and regular. To the southwest of the reservoir was the city of Krimskaya, and to its northwest was the city of Krandozdar, and both cities would be targets for the Russians. Putting Operation Neptune aside for a moment, again which took place from April 16th to the 23rd, the first Soviet attack here started in early April, on April 4th. Not knowing that Neptune was about to be launched, the attack was to hit either side of the reservoir and push west. This would force the pierced perimeter of the Germans and Romanians to fall back, and this would relieve pressure on the southern Soviet beachhead. One Guards Division and two Rifle Divisions hit the 97th Jaeger Division and the 9th Infantry Division. A German Jaeger division was more equipped than a mountain division, but not as much as an infantry division. But it was also designed to fight on difficult terrain. But here, again, the terrain was not difficult, thus negating some of their tactics. At first, there was Soviet penetration, but instead of continuing to push west, that was to have been the job of the 37th Army, the Soviets here attempted to widen the breach instead of deepen it. This allowed the 97th Jaeger to counterattack, supported by assault gun batteries brought up for support. Though they had regained some of their territory, they readied themselves for another attack the next day. And it came, but there wasn't much to it. The why of this soon became clear as April 6th brought heavy rains, which slowed down the resupplying of the attacking Soviet troops. The rains let up on April 12th, and at 5 a.m. on April 13th, the Soviet attack was renewed. The Russians hit 3 places in the German line, which caused the defenders to shift men around, and this allowed Soviet units to reach the southern edge of the city of Krimskaya, the town to the southwest of the reservoir. This had been by design, as the Soviet hope was, again, to relieve pressure on the southern bridgehead around the port city. The Germans had enough reserves nearby to halt this penetration, but then spent the next 2 days bringing up more men. On April 15th, the Axis regained some of what they had lost, but not all. The next day, April 16th, the fighting had stabilized. Then the Soviets stopped pushing. The Germans were appreciative of this, but they did not know it was because that Moscow elites had arrived in the area to get an update on the fighting.
Wow, this house is cute. But can I really get in the game in this economy? I do have savings, and I am responsible-ish. I should bury it. I'm being wild. But what if I'm not being wild, though? Could I actually score a...
Kick off your home buying journey with Zillow's new BuyAbility tool. It makes it easy to find out what you can afford, so you can get off the bench and onto the playing field with confidence. Check your BuyAbility only on Zillow.
Among those now standing in the Soviet Army's headquarters to the east of this fighting was Marshal Zhukov, Air Force Commander General Alexander Novikov, and Admiral Kuznetsov and Stavka Representative Sergei Shemenko. They were there to oversee the next and, hopefully, final phase of this battle. Plans were made on April 29th. The Soviets launched another attack. The 56th Army hit the northern wing of the 97th Jaeger Division, but didn't get far. Not wanting to waste time or resources, the emphasis of the Soviet attack was switched to the south of Krimskaya, again the southern of the 2 cities near the reservoir. This did the trick, kind of. The attack was supported by 20 tanks, and they managed to reach the southern end of the town, and it looked like that they would be able to encircle the city with troops coming up from the south, if they brought up enough men fast enough. But as darkness came, the Germans in the city pulled back as to not be trapped. Yet, being the professionals that they were, waiting for the retreating Germans was a well-entrenched line called the D-Line. It was a few miles to the west of Krimskaya. This looked like it might be the beginning of something bigger, but the D-Line held as the Soviets attacked it for the next few days. Seeing that another dry spell was taking shape, Zhukov and company left for Moscow, as they knew a tongue-lashing and perhaps more was waiting for them from Stalin. Their mood was dark, and true to form, someone had to pay for disappointing the Soviet premier, so General Maslenikov was removed as the North Caucasus Front commander, replaced by Ivan Petrov, again of the Battle of Sevastopol. When the Soviets came again, they were a bit more ambitious this time, as the 56th and 9th Armies attacked, this time pushing to the northwest of Krimskaya. The 18th Army, down in the beachhead, would push up north and try to come around the Samos Bay, making it completely a Soviet possession. At 5 a.m. on May 26th, the Soviets launched an artillery barrage and airstrikes. Then tanks and infantry went in. The fighting here lasted for 6 hours, and though the Soviet tanks made gains, they soon outran their infantry support. So when the Germans counterattacked with their anti-tank weapons, the Russians lost enough tanks to have to fall back, though they did keep some of what they had gained. For the next few days, the fighting ranged over and for a hill in the area. Whoever possessed it had a commanding view and a place to put artillery on top and harass the other side. The hill changed hands several times. Bodies were strewn around. Though they did not know this, could not know this, when the Soviets took the hill on May 29th, they would not lose it again, despite several German counterattacks, which cost them more men, gaining nothing. As June opened up, both sides rested, done in by all this fighting for the hill. As the perimeter line had changed again, both sides spent June and early July strengthening their new positions, knowing another attack was coming. Besides, not that the Soviet men knew this, but the Battle of Kursk was coming, and Berlin was pouring everything into it, as Hitler wanted to not only retake the initiative there, but show his allies, Italy and Romania, that victory was still possible. But more on that soon. Not that Berlin forgot about the 17th Army. On June 7th, the 17th Army got a new commander. Ruoff was out, and General Erwin Janicki was in. Even better, the 17th also received the 98th Infantry Division from Bryansk on the third week of June. It took over for the much weakened 101st Jaeger Division. The Germans were right to bring in reinforcements, as the Soviets attacked again at 4 a.m. on July 16th. Their goal was to hit the almost depleted 97th Jaeger Division and take another hill, this one labeled 114.1. After an artillery barrage, the Soviets came in with 2 rifle brigades, parts of 2 rifle divisions, and 1 tank brigade, all backed by continuing artillery and air attacks. About 4 miles due west of Krimskaya is the town of Moldvansko, and that's where the Soviets were heading. To punch a large hole there would be to rupture the entire Axis defensive line. Though this was not achieved before the day was out, 2 smaller holes were punched through the German line. The Soviet northern penetration was pushed back to its starting point, but the southern incursion, though stopped by the Germans, allowed the Axis to regain some of what they had lost. Though it was painfully slow, this is what winning looked like to the Soviets. The enemy had only so much real estate, and to lose any of it was a setback. So the Germans attacked their lost territory all that night, but could not get the Soviets to back up. Then both sides rested, that is, until the Soviets attacked again at 5:30 a.m. on July 22nd. That the Germans themselves did not counterattack before this shows that they were either uncertain about the outcome of an attack or were too weak at this point and had to focus on defense only.
The NBA playoffs are here, and I'm getting my bets in on FanDuel. Talk to me, Chuck GPT. What do you know?
All sorts of interesting stuff, even Charles Barkley's greatest fear.
Hey, nobody needs to know that.
New customers bet $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
21 plus and present in Ohio. Must be first online real money wager. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Back to the Soviets. Instead of hitting the expected spot of their latest gain, they chose a long-standing favorite of armies past. They hit along the line, but focused their main attack in the spot where the 97th Jaeger Division and the 98th Infantry Division met. Reacting to this attack and having more men, the 98th formed an assault group and retrieved some of what they had lost. But the Russians would keep attacking as July faded and August came. Nothing major was achieved, but the Axis was being bled dry. And it was on July 24th, when the fighting was at its most intense, that the Soviets showed their hand. Bringing up some of their reserves, these men, apart from the regular fighting, aimed for the southern end of the German line to try to again liberate the port city. But the German Fifth Corps held. The Soviets, thinking it was just a matter of time, kept pushing here and pushing until August 10th. But the Fifth Corps remained resolute. By now, even the vengeful Russians were exhausted. Fighting up and down the line dwindled away, coming to a full stop by early September. Instead, the Soviet command realized they did not have to win outright, though that would have been preferable. No, they just had to be the ones that held the line. For if other attacks to their north threatened the 17th Army's ability to withdraw, that could be their undoing. And sure enough, on September 8th, Hitler, realizing this himself, ordered the withdrawal of 17th Army back to Crimea. Next time, we'll venture a bit north and watch the Battle of Kursk unfold, as its outcome caused even Hitler to see the threat that 17th Army was under. Despite his prediction in early 1941, turns out Stalin's Russia, his government, nor its people were a rotten structure. Greetings from Central Virginia. So I just want to say thank you very much for those who have responded to my, let's use the word plea, at the end of the last episode. I really do appreciate it. Again, it really does make a difference here. And just from all of us here, thank you so much. So kind of a long list, but I'm just going to go through it here. And I'm very happy to do this. So as far as my latest members, let's see here. There's Matthew Lowry. I hope I got that right, Matthew. I apologize if I mispronounced the last name. Let's see here. Dale Fowler, Thomas Moquette, Paul Gruka, Calvin Jones Jr., Craig Martin, Peter Matar, and Michael Johnson. So thank you very much to the latest members. I've been doing, for a couple of months now, I've been doing one membership episode a week. So hopefully between these two episodes a week and that, it's enough to make their daily commute better, or walking the dog, or what have you. As far as those who have donated, again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Let's see here. We got Neil Stoker, Carson Wagner, who is originally from the Outer Banks, which I have been going to my family vacations for almost 25 years. So I just love that place so much. Dale Fowler, again, who is also a member. Adam Datch, I hope I got that right. Andrew Lee, and Andrew, very funny sense of humor. I like the message very much. Thank you. Let's hear Michael Hone, Matt Evans, Mark Foldy. I hope I'm saying that right. Paul Gruka, again, became a member. Eugene Vortia. I hope I got that right. Liam Barrett. Sorry, Liam. Christopher Massar, Michael Barnard, Dylan Associates, Anthony Apfelbeck. So, and Anthony has either become a member or donated before, because I remember that name. So, Anthony, Tony, thank you very much. AM and CJ Sumner, and yes, I agree with you in your message. I hope I don't have to pay tariffs on these donations. That would really suck. But that's enough of the politics here. And they're also members. So Sumner, thank you very much. Ronald Smallwood, and I love this. He is from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, Canada. That's a lot to say. That would be a lot to write on a postcard. But anyway, and then finally, Michael Haas. So what I'm probably going to do now is the Soviets are well and good. You know, they've been pushing, and Hitler is backing up. But obviously, we just went months, you know, in this episode and in the last episode. So I'm going to stop here for a moment, do the Battle of Kursk, which then affects and threatens the German 17th Army, show them going back to Crimea and then taking it from there. So a little segue, or not segue, a little detour, the Battle of Kursk, which I am very much looking forward to. I've got a lot of thick books. We'll see how that goes, and then we'll jump back down, because it is the beginning of it is the unraveling of Army Group South. That is the beginning of unraveling the Eastern Front. So, and besides, the other two groups are not getting anywhere. So we'll see how that goes. So if you've been looking forward to tank battles, the Battle of Kursk, it is coming up soon. I hope everybody has a great weekend, and just in general, take care, everyone.
As a longtime foreign correspondent, I've worked in lots of places, but nowhere as important to the world as China. I'm Jane Perlez, former Beijing bureau chief for the New York Times. On Face Off, the US versus China, we'll explore what's critical to this important global relationship. Trump and Xi Jinping, AI, TikTok, and even Hollywood. New episodes of Face Off are available now, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, everyone. My name is Wesley Livesey from the History of the Second World War podcast. Join me on a journey through the most destructive conflict in human history, a journey that will take us not just through the famous campaigns and cataclysmic battles, but also to the lesser well-known corners of the war that touched millions all over the world, as we try and answer not just the questions of what and where, but how and why. You can find History of the Second World War on all major podcast platforms or at historyofthesecondworldwar.com.